Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back. This is episode, I believe, number 3. It's another episode that I'm doing. I started doing these live shows, and the main purpose of it is to show other people that recovery is possible. That's the main purpose I started doing this, because with the pandemic and everything going on, a lot of 12-step meetings, they're all shut down. Everything is online, so a lot more people are spending time on social media really than ever. People are spending a lot of time on social media in general, but since the closure, the thing shut down, people have nothing to do, so they'll come on here. And today, as you can see, I'm not by myself. Today I have my beautiful wife with me, because this is a special episode of a woman and her daughter and their journey with their son, the son who was struggling with drugs. And they're going to be talking about support and everything. And that's why my wife is here, because my wife supports me in my recovery, in my sobriety. So I thought this would be very appropriate to have her on with us today. But I see them. I'm going to get them through now. Ooh, and here they come. But Steve, what's up, bro? Hey, Dad. My dad there.
Tall. It's too tall now. Sorry, we gotta. We always have technical difficulties when we do these. Give us a second.
That's okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
How you guys doing? Oh, you guys are crooked.
We're crooked. Yeah, no, we're.
Okay, there. You guys are straight now.
We're sorry. We always have technical. Last time my phone almost died, and like 10 minutes in, it was horrifying. It was funny.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. This is my wife, by the way. Her name is Marisol.
Hello.
I told her all about you guys. I mean,
Oh.
it's just incredible. I've seen you guys' videos and everything. You guys have been doing this so much, and I'd like to thank you guys. Because like I was just talking about, I mean, with the pandemic, everybody's home. It's not like drug dealers went out of business or liquor stores stopped selling liquor.
Right.
And I was so excited about this episode in particular. Because it's different. It's from a different perspective. It's not from the eyes of the alcoholic or the addict. So again, thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to be here with us. So I'll let you guys take it away.
Okay. So first, thank you for this opportunity. Like you said, we do this frequently. Every time we do, when someone else sees us and wants us to do their show. So it's really amazing that people are responding to us as the support people, because I think that is just as important as hearing from the recovering addicts. People are responding to
Sorry.
Okay, sorry, we're having technical difficulties on our end too.
Oh my God.
Always.
Is it better?
There we go. Go ahead.
Okay. So when we do these, generally I tell just a highlight of our story, which is pretty amazing, that my son stayed in recovery through all these instances. And then I let my daughter kind of tell her part of, because it's different being the mother and the daughter, even though it's the same support. It's a different aspect, you know what I mean? So I think it's really great, and I'm so grateful that she does these with me. She's so beautiful, isn't she? And we have our no heroin shirt. No heroin.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, nice.
So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Christy Chavez. I'm the mother of a 26-year-old, 29-month recovering heroin addict.
Nice.
Yes, he's doing really well. We just love him, huh? We should bring a picture. He doesn't want to do these, but we should show him he's So on June 10th of 2018, my son checked himself back into rehab for, we're landing on the 4th time. It could be 4, 5, 6. We don't know, but we've just landed on 4 to make it easier as we do these shows. And when he got out of detox, a counselor that we just love, Doug, walked down the hall, and he had this piece of paper in his hand, and he said to Tanner, Tanner, we only see these toxicology readings in autopsies.
Mm.
He said, you should not be alive. He had 14 different drugs in his system, which was unbelievable.
Wow.
Doug said to him, you are the best drug addict I've ever seen in my life. I'm a recovering addict. I've done this 35 years. You are the best drug addict I've ever seen. He said, you cannot ever do drugs again because you will die. You're too good at it.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And I think my son really, he respected him so much. And I think that really had a profound effect on him, hearing, you know, when you're clean versus when you're in survival mode, that you could die. And you know that as a recovering addict, you know. So I brought him home on July 13th, and he went on a camping trip with some of the people that he met in this last recovery. And on July 15th, I found my husband dead.
Mm.
Of course, we were beyond devastated. We were stunned. We were exhausted. We had just spent 30 days. And if any of you have been a true support person for your loved one, it is physically and emotionally draining to go through that for 30 days. It really is. I was with him 6 days a week. Nikki was with him. I don't know how many, several. It's very exhausting. And of course, we were very worried that Tanner would possibly relapse, hearing that his father has now passed. And when I say that, I want everybody to know, as the support people, we think we know what would be a trigger, but only the addict truly knows what is a trigger for them. So when we say, you know, we thought this was going to be a trigger for Tanner, it may have not been, but we knew it was a physical and emotional trauma on him, as it was for us. And so Tanner came home from the camping trip, and he drove by the house, and he saw the commotion, all the cops and the ambulances and the medical examiners and the CSIs taking pictures. It was horrifying. And he knew something was up. And so he called my phone, and I said, I can't talk to him. And I handed it to my beautiful son-in-law, love him. And I said, just tell him he's got to come home. We can't tell him on the phone. He cannot hear this. He's only been clean, 35 days. And so Lance, bless his heart, said, Tanner, you know, we just need you to come home. And Tanner was like, well, what's going on? What's going on? Just tell me. And Lance said, no, we just need you to come home. It's not about you. And of course, at that time, I think he was still kind of even leery about the police only being clean. You know, when you're right.
Yeah.
Even though I had nothing to feel guilty about, there's always that leer there for a while, you know. So he came in the house, and we told him that Dad had passed. And of course, he was very upset, and he cried. And me and Nikki told him, Tanner, no matter what you do, you cannot relapse, because we cannot handle it. You cannot relapse. We cannot deal with it. We are physically and emotionally exhausted. Your dad is gone, and we're going to have to deal with all of that. And we need you. I mean, we need now the family more than ever, right? Yeah. And so, bless his heart, he did not relapse. And I went back to work on September 10th, so I was off about 2 months. And on September 11th, my son was in this horrible car wreck on a busy freeway in Utah. He was hurt, but not really bad, because he was in my husband's new truck, which he had bought like in April, and it had protected him. So that was a great thing. And the amazing thing was when Tanner was standing out in front of the truck, and he could hear some screaming. And he looked around, and he could see this SUV had rolled with one of the semi trucks in the wreck. And so he ran over there, jumped fence, cut his leg open, jumped up on the SUV, and there was a mother and her 3 children trapped in the car, and they could not get out. So my son rescued them out of the car, which is an amazing thing. The recovering heroin addict on the side. Yeah, 1,000 people in the recovery. Yeah, anyway, give a plug for the recovering heroin addict. Yeah. And the thing that was really unfortunate is, you know, he deserved a lot more credit and a lot more kudos. And even from us, I mean, it was on the news, it was in the newspaper. It was a pretty significant story, but we just couldn't believe one more thing had happened to us. I mean, we were like, what in the heck is happening? And of course, we're now again worried that he might relapse, because this could be a trigger. Like I said, we don't know what his triggers are. He did not relapse. which again is an amazing thing. And on October 24th, I was diagnosed with breast cancer 3 months after my husband died. And I think that was the time I was most worried that he might relapse, having to hear that I had breast cancer. And I was stunned. I mean, I could, again, you keep saying we can't do one more thing, and one more thing just comes, and you have to deal with it, you know? And so they called me, I was at work. And so I called my daughter and I told her, you know, I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. And of course, she was the amazing child. It's okay, Mom. We're going to get through this. We're a wonderful family. We're going to be good. It's going to be good, which was very helpful. I was less than I wasn't as leery because I knew I had to go home to my son. And I drove home. I don't remember driving home, which is not a good thing, but you can imagine going through that many emotional and physical traumas. Now I have breast cancer. I mean, just my even mindset. It was just, yeah, I can't even explain it. So I went in the house and I went in his room, and he knew something was wrong because I never go in his room. And I sat on his bed, which is even a bigger sign. And I said, I have to tell you something. And he knew it wasn't good. He knew. And I said, I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. And he said, of course you fucking have. And he was pissed. I mean, he went into this fit of rage, and I get it. I just sat there and let him do it. I mean, I understood. I wanted to feel that way, but I was so exhausted. I went to flight and he went to fight. You know, when you have these stressful modes, you either go to fight or flight. Yep. He went to fight, and I totally understand it. And when he got done, I just said, I know, and I'm probably gonna cry, sorry. Yeah. I know this is really difficult, but you cannot relapse. I said, I need you. Nikki needs you. Your dad is gone. I cannot do this by myself. You know, breast cancer, I'm in surgery. Who knows what I'm going to have to go through. And he said, I won't, Mom. And we just kind of sat there and hugged for a long time and just cried. And so I had surgery about a month later, and then 5 weeks of radiation. And he never did relapse. And he was there with me like the whole time. He lives with me. My daughter's married, and he took care of me, brought me food, brought me whatever I needed during that time, that my husband would have been the one that would have done it. But, you know, Nikki came every day, her and Lance, and they spent all this time, brought me stuff. And I don't think any of us would have gotten through any of this had we not had that closeness. And we were close before all these things happened, but it's changed us. We are so much closer now. And we realize how much we cannot live without each other. I tell people, then this is just my story. I feel like we're one person. We're four because of Lance. We're four. We're not four people anymore. We're like one person. You know, these events have just changed us, and, you know, brought us closer together. And again, like I said, bless Tanner's heart, he did not relapse, and he is still in recovery today. And that is such an amazing part of this story, because those were some pretty traumatic things for someone just newly clean. And you can probably attest to that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That, I mean, every time something would happen, he's first thing, God, I even told him one time, God, I want to take heroin and not feel this. You know what I mean? I was kidding, but I was like, I totally understood why you would want to numb. You know, when I got to breast cancer, I was just so done. And I totally understood why someone would want to escape their life. I wanted to escape our life, you know, but anyway, so that's kind of just the highlight. You know, as we say, you know, this story, that so many more things went into these events that we had to deal with, and especially physically and emotionally. But we like to tell the story. I like to tell it just to give people hope that, you know, a newly recovering addict can get through these horrible events and stay clean. And he tells us all the time, and that's the reason we do these shows, is because of the undying support we give to him, period.
Mm-hmm.
We never judge him. We don't throw stuff in his face. We don't tell him how awful he is while he was using. We know addicts do horrible things. We know he did horrible things when he was in survival mode. We get it.
Yeah.
But that's not who he is.
Mm-hmm.
That's not who he is. And we are so great at separating the addict from who Tanner is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he tells us all the time that that is the biggest thing after going through recovery, you know, getting the help from the hospital, that our support, he couldn't do with that. And why would you want to? You know,
right.
Why would you want to stay clean if someone's constantly judging you, or I'm yelling at him and throwing stuff in his face? I'll tell you, I've made mistakes. I don't want them thrown in my face every day.
Right.
As a person.
Mm-hmm.
Normal people don't want their mistakes thrown in their face. Addicts don't, because they know what they've done and they know it's horrible. But that's not who they are. And now they're trying to be who they are, living with who they were as an addict, you know? And so if nobody listens to anything else I say today, please listen to that. Please don't judge them. Please try and find a way to get over it, forgive them, do whatever you got to do to make sure that they stay in recovery, because the other option isn't good.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, you attest to that as an addict. It's so if nobody hears anything else I say, please, as the support, do that. So I'm going to let Nikki kind of now tell her kind of.
Okay. Oh, but real quick, I wanted to mention something. Just listening to you, I've never heard somebody that that was a parent or a husband, a wife, a friend of the person that's struggling with drugs and alcohol kind of speak like this, because what I learned in recovery is that, addicts, alcoholics, we're not bad people trying to get good. We're sick people trying to get well. It's like, you already understood that, that's amazing. I mean, I do have some questions I want to ask you guys later, but we definitely do want to hear from Nikki.
Yes, we do.
So I'll just share a little bit. I mean, story similar, all the same events happened to me and stuff. I just like to kind of talk a little bit about my side. Being Tanner's sister, I kind of knew about his addiction a little bit before my parents, because I could recognize like something was weird. I mean, I wasn't like, oh, I'm sure he's using heroin, because when I found out, I'm like, what the heck is heroin? Like, how do you get that? And I mean, what? Like, is there a store for that? Anyways. So he was just different, and I could tell that he was different. I could tell, and really the only way that I can put it like into perspective is he just wasn't like my brother. It was super weird. He was just different. So I kind of recognized that, and so of course I confronted him. I'm like, what is going on? What are you doing? And he's like, oh, it's no big deal. Nothing's going on. Of course. And so I kind of would still just be like, hey, something is weird. What's going on? Kind of bugging him about it, which I think being a support person, it's good to be able to recognize the differences in them. Like when they're using, when they're sober, because a lot of times I think like just letting them know, like, I know something is up, like, just so you're aware, I do know, I can recognize these things, it's good to be able to see those things. So, finally everything came out. And another, I think, amazing thing is if you have the opportunity as you're supporting someone who is struggling with addiction, if you can go through rehab classes with them or educate yourself, I think that is so empowering for you and for your relationship with them. I feel like that is life-changing, because I do feel like the stigma on addiction comes from not having education on it. Because like we're saying, we're just saying these are horrible people. Like, they deserve to die. They deserve to have these things happen to them. And I'm like, hey, listen, that's my brother, or, that's your husband. Like, they're good people. They don't deserve to die or these bad things to happen. They deserve to get help. So let's step up. let's do our part,
Mhm.
what we can do, and help these people, because clearly they can't do it by themselves. They're not figuring it out. They're not doing it. So we have to be those people that are willing to get into the hard situation and say, let's do this. Let's do this together. I am here. I am with you. I know that my situation and what I'm dealing with going through this with you is different, but I'm here. I'm here and I will show up for you, because if we have more people willing to show up, then we are going to be able to be more successful in having people thrive in recovery versus relapse and after, you know, things like that. Yeah. The other options aren't great either. So even if, you know, going to rehab doesn't sound ideal, or supporting someone that struggles with that, I don't think planning a funeral or, you know, going through that side of it would be better. So I think educating ourselves, and then we really do try just to reiterate, don't judge them. It really is. I think that is so hard for anyone regularly, but someone who, they are fragile. They're learning, they're relearning life skills and how to function and to do things as a sober person versus, you know, a heroin addict or, you know, whatever. They just need support. They need love. They don't need judgment and ridicule and those type of things, because it's not going to help them in recovery. I can tell you that probably 99% of the time, those people will relapse. And we saw it in rehab multiple times. There was multiple parents that were embarrassed because their child was an alcoholic, or, you know, they didn't want to tell anyone because it looked bad on them. Which it's not about us. It's not about us as a support people. It is about showing up for the addicts so they can have a chance to be in recovery, because that is way more important than what anyone thinks about us. Because if people are judging you for showing up for an addict, then there's an issue somewhere else. So, I think that's important to remember.
And I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, I strongly agree. I mean, education is so important. On my side of it, I actually, prior to my husband, I didn't even know there were these support groups. I wasn't connected. I didn't have the knowledge or the tools necessary to help him out. And fortunately, I had a friend that actually, you know, introduced me to a support group, and I eventually got educated, got informed, and I got the proper tools to be able to help him out. But I'm glad you hit it on the mark. Education is so important.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, man. You guys are great examples of people who are being selfless. You know, it's like, it's amazing how you guys can, you know, because I know a lot of people who have a child or a friend that aren't like you two. They're the total opposite. They're very judgmental. They have no tolerance for their loved one. They have no patience. It's just, you know, amazing that your guys' story. That's why I'm so excited to be doing this today with you guys, you know, to kind of get this message out, because you know, the stigma has to end. It has to end, you know, and I'm all for that though. But I'm sorry, Mom, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, and I know sometimes it's really hard as the support people to get over those things, but I'll tell you, nobody has ever said to me, "You're such a horrible mother, you saved your fucking child from heroin." So even though you think, you know, somebody may judge you, and again, I don't really give a shit. The most important thing was my son. But we've only gotten true support. Nobody has said, "You're so awful for supporting Tanner. My God, you should have just let him die." Nobody has said that. And most people who hear us speak are like you. They're very grateful. They then are like, "Oh, I can actually support my addict without people judging me." Because even though the judgment on the support side is not as big, I do still think they feel that. You know what I mean? We did not, because we didn't care. But I think there still is that fear in the support people, and there shouldn't be, because why would anybody want you to see you at their funeral instead of doing this show saying, "God, you know, my son's alive. You know, we did this." And again, I don't want to say amazing support, but we really are amazing support for my child. I mean, and everybody should have this support so that they are successful, you know. yeah, if I can, yeah, like I said, if nobody listens to anything I say, God, that is just the most, our message. We just so know how important that is. And so, so yeah, thank you. I just wanted to stress
Yeah.
that we don't,
No.
yeah, nobody says you're horrible people for supporting. So,
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I actually never thought about that. I guess because I was the one suffering, like I never thought about that, but I think in my opinion, like what you were just talking about, like if my son is struggling with drugs and I'm too afraid to take him to rehab because I'm afraid what people are going to think, like
right,
my love for him will become tested, will really become tested, and it's obvious, it's so obvious how much you love your son and how much you love your brother.
right,
And you guys are great examples, man. I mean, it's just unbelievable, like I've never met two non-alcoholics, non-addicts that think the way you guys think about people that is suffering out there. I mean, although I struggled with it for 20 years, I was addicted, out of it birthed a purpose for me. I mean, today I'm a substance abuse counselor. I never thought in my wildest dreams I'll ever become a counselor,
right,
but I love it. I love I got sober in a 12-step program. I love the whole recovery, everything about it. I love sponsorship. I love being of service to other people. I love, just helping and reaching out and carrying the message that recovery is possible. Kind of, it's like you guys, like we got that in common. Like you guys doing the same exact thing, but it's coming from a different perspective. But it's like we're saying the same thing. It's like something got to be, we're probably telling the truth. You know what I mean?
Something's
yeah,
working.
yeah, we have nothing to gain or lose doing these because
Right.
my son's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, we do this really just for awareness, and hopefully the support people will hear us and go, wow, just like you guys do, like, wow.
That's really
Yeah.
all that we hope, because
Right.
I think that is what eventually, hopefully sometime soon, will be able to make the difference. If we can come together as recovering addicts and people that are just there to support, just to show that, yes, this is possible. Let's work together. Let's do this. We don't have to let drugs and alcohol and those things win. We can come together and for a purpose and make a difference.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you, Tanner has brought some people home that their support people have disowned them.
Oh, wow.
And Tanner just recently, and I was not thrilled, went into a drug house, and his friend texted him and said, I want help, Tanner. And so Tanner went and got him and he brought him home. I was not thrilled he went into the drug house, but he didn't want to use. And so we took care of him and we showed him this side of us being the support, and he was stunned. Unfortunately, he didn't have it from anybody but us, and he relapsed.
Yeah.
He relapsed. I mean, we were not enough for him, and I get it. I'm not his mother.
We don't know him.
We did the best we could, but he just could not believe. And he would tell Tanner, "You are so lucky to have your mom and your sister and your brother-in-law." He just couldn't believe, and the way I would even talk to him, and I went and got him groceries. I looked up what helps you when you're trying to get off of meth. I had no meth. Ugh. God, awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so we actually, if Tanner brings someone home, we do try to help them as well, that they don't have support. And Tanner did work with a guy, and he did tell him the story about, he was the support for his daughter, and he did share his story about me being the support. So my son shares it. He doesn't want to do so. He's not this out there like you, he will help people, and we will as well.
And just by hearing what you guys have to say, I know I've never met Tanner, but from what you tell me about him, I mean, like, it's a common trend because you guys are so have a desire to be helpful to other people, and he's going into drug houses, bringing people out of it. And because you mentioned something that when I was active in my addiction, I would think of the same thing, kind of just it relates to what I was just talking about in like drugs, alcohol. That's what I did. That wasn't who I am. That's just what I did. you know, but then this disease was trying to convince me, nope, this is who you are. This is who you are. You're never going to stop. You're never going to amount to anything. You're never be worth nothing. Your family don't love you. Your friends don't love you. I mean, it's just so insane, the kind of mindset you have, especially when you're coming down. But even in a sober state of mind, those thoughts, those way of thinking, it's still there. It's not just when you're, you know, you're high or you're drunk.
We'll tell the story that Tanner said. I mean, it was surprising, but I'll let when he said, I didn't think you would show up or. So
the last time that he checked into rehab, my husband and I went on a Sunday because his visits from his other rehab that we went to were on Sundays. It was the same place, but it was inpatient housing. It was just a little bit different. Anyways, so we showed up, and I'm like trying to call and like see where we could go for visits or whatever. And so I finally was able to talk to a counselor, and they're like, oh, those guys have visits on Saturdays or whatever. But since you're here, I will go get him, and I'll have him come out for just a few minutes. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so my husband and I just waited outside, and he came out, and he was like, wow, I am so surprised to see you here. I didn't think that you guys would ever come again. And I'm like, why would you think that? We never said that we wouldn't come again. Like, if you are making the effort on your end to get better and to show up. And so he asked me, like, do you think mom and dad will ever come? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they will, you know, and stuff like that. But it's just, he was like, I am not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of my family's love, my friends' love, you know, none of these people, because the stigma around addicts and addiction is you are, you know, horrible people, you make horrible choices, you know. But I think it's empowering to still show up, and I mean, even keep showing up while they're in recovery, because they need support, and they need to know that you're good people. You know, it's good people, and all of us make bad choices. I probably can't say that anybody watching this video has made all good choices. Right. It's just it's different, and that's okay that it's different, you know. But just keep showing up. I think that makes a big difference all around.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's cool.
Because I'll tell you, if I didn't do everything for my child, I would never live with myself. And if I don't do everything and he relapses, and I'm standing in a funeral parlor looking down in a casket, I could not have lived with myself. So, yeah, I don't know how people can, you know, and I get it's my son. I mean, I don't know if it's your husband or someone you can divorce. I mean, I don't know. I can't get rid of my child. He's my baby. You know, we could not live with ourselves if we, you know, I mean, if he chooses to go back and he relapses on his own, it's not going to be because we didn't do everything. That's still a possibility, but we could not live with ourselves. We just could not. And I always want to ask, and you know, what, as a support person, how could you live with yourself looking at your child in a casket?
Right.
Oh, I judged you, ridiculed you, and I threw you out. Now you're dead. I mean, instead of trying to figure out and learn about addiction and support them. Yeah. You know, I just can't imagine how traumatizing that would be as the support person. Yeah, definitely. You know, it's pretty insane. But are you guys okay if I ask you guys a couple questions? Sure. If we do? Crazy. Okay. The first question I have for you guys would be, what would be your approach to someone, a loved one that's struggling? You know, because typically the approach is, hey, stop doing that. Just stop, you know, kind of thing. You know, just stop. They can't just stop.
Not that. Yeah. Anything but that.
Yeah, we learned that, Brett, this counselor did this amazing PowerPoint, and they said, yeah, just stop or just say no. That's not going to cut it. I would say struggling, hopefully they come to us. I know I'm going to let Nikki kind of answer this one just because she did it so well, like being support. So
I think, like I kind of talked about before, I think it's okay to confront them. Right. If you realize like something is off, I think it is okay to confront them. I think you do have to have boundaries, like not being pushing towards them, but it's okay to just let them know, I know something is different. I know something is going on, and I want you to know that I am still showing up even while you're in active addiction. and I am not going to let this go until we figure it out together. So I think it's okay that when you do notice something, to say it, because I think it's pretty easy to turn a blind eye. I think that's a little bit easier than having to confront it, especially when you don't know. If you haven't been through it, or you don't know what the process looks like, it probably is easier just to kind of look away and just hope that it gets better. Most of the time, it's not going to get better. No. So I think it's important to prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for what it could look like. If you're like, something is off, I can tell maybe it's drugs, or, you know, they're drinking a lot of alcohol, you know, things like that. I think it's good to prepare yourself just to know that something is going on. I need to be aware that we're going to have to deal with this one way or another. So, I mean, still love the person, but don't enable them.
don't enable your addict to death, is what my son always says. The advice I give the support people. And
can you clarify? Some people may not know what that means, to enable. Could you give us some examples?
I'll take this one.
No, just kidding.
So my daughter knew probably day 2 when my son had relapsed. Him and her are just so dang close. And her and my husband kept telling me he's using again. And I was like, no, he's not. He's not losing weight. His eyes aren't all weird, like on heroin. And I think I really didn't want him to be in relapse instead of in recovery, because we all know there's only 2 choices. You're never cured. You're either in relapse or you're in recovery. There's 2 choices. I didn't want him to be in relapse. And so I denied it for a long time. And it almost cost him his life. And if I had to do it, because again, as soon as the day I found out, I saw the needles in his room, I said, I'm done. I love you, but I cannot do this. You cannot do drugs in my house. If this is how you want to live, you get to, but you cannot do it here. And I cannot do this. I cannot enable it. You cannot. And so he went and checked himself in, because it was the only choice, because my son could not live on the street. There is no way. Yeah. And so for him, that was rock bottom. But I'll tell you, I did it for a long time. And I knew about addiction. I knew about we've been going through this for a long time, and they told us to watch for these. And I knew when Nikki and my husband were telling me, I just didn't want to. So I really enabled him way too long, and it almost cost him his life, because he got comfortable. Why would he quit?
Right.
He's home. Right. He's going right. His mom's cooking his right.
Yeah, nice.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why he says that, because I loved him and I overlooked that. I wouldn't do it again. I'm not going to have to again, right? Tanner, yay. But I did do it for a long time, about 8 months.
Wow.
And so, yeah, please don't. I would have been horrified if, maybe one more day he would not be alive.
Okay, so my wife is going to ask you folks the next question.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually would like to know, what's your kind of your perspective. You talked about it a little bit, but if you could kind of just touch on it a little bit further. What's your perspective on meetings, and what did you guys do when your son was active in addiction to be proactive and help him out? And what would you recommend someone who is currently in that position?
So I would say when he was in active addiction, we didn't see him a lot. So from our perspective, when they're in active addiction, they don't want to be around sober people. He didn't want to be around them. Yeah. I mean, you can attest to that. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do for them if they don't want help. Now, the moment that he wanted help, every time, we did everything. My insurance company paid. It's expensive to go through rehab. It's like $8,000. I had really good insurance, thank God. But as soon as he wanted help, we did everything we could. We went to every meeting. We learned about addiction. We researched what we didn't know. We thought it was so important. And we asked him. Why don't you ask your addict? Because every addict is a little different. You know, what did you like about it? What do you not like? What do you need? What do you not need? You know, and another thing is, one of our roles is to ask him, are you okay? Like once a week, I ask him still. And he's like, God, Mom. And I'm like, Doug told me it's my job. Yeah. So always remember you cannot do anything if they don't want help. But the minute they come to you and truly want help, I suggest you do everything you can. And I was fortunate. I had good insurance, but there are programs out there to help those if they're not as fortunate, you know. But as the support people, it's so important that you do that and you understand. Like I'm going to ask you, like you keep saying, you're so impressed. We know so much about addiction, and we're not addicts.
Yeah.
Where did we learn that?
Support groups, meetings,
We didn't go to any
research,
support.
get connected. I think it's so important for me personally, because I was kind of blinded. Like I was like, okay, what do I do? My husband is actively in recovery, but what do I do? I don't know where to go from here. So just get connected with meetings. I befriended some women who were in the same program, and they're the ones who constantly I would call. Just, you know, they would uplift me when I needed a little bit of uplifting. But just meetings, honestly, is really what saved me and did it for me.
Yep. I think education is the key.
Right.
Yeah.
Education, because some people don't have access to meetings or things like that, but there's like YouTube videos, or I mean there's a lot of resources that you can find. I'm pretty sure you can do like all of the Al-Anon stuff you can find online, which is for support people, like a 12-step program for support people. But there's lots of options, and if you're willing to educate yourself, even I think it's hard because sometimes people are like, well, I'm not the problem, I'm not the issue, he's the issue, or he has the issue, you know. But the thing is, it's not about it's not who's right and who's wrong. It's let's get through this together. So step up, do your part. They're doing their part. They're learning, they're relearning, they're going through their 12-step program. So the least that we could do is support them while they're going through their programs, but also make ourselves so we can support them and we can show up and we can be there for them, because it will make a difference. So whatever education that you can find, that you can get access to, I recommend it. All of the education, it's never too much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it sounds like you guys were very proactive in this. It's not like, well, maybe hopefully a commercial will come on TV and we'll learn something. You know what I mean?
No,
It
no.
actually, took time.
No.
Yeah.
And I think one thing for me is I shared my story very openly. I work at IRS. I was in higher management, so I had access to a lot of people, and I shared my story very openly, and people were so grateful. There were people that were suffering in silence. I mean, strangers would come to me. Like, Lori told me to come and talk to you, that you're the mother of recovering. My God. And I was like, okay. And so I think being good with the situation is very powerful, and sharing. Like I never hid it from the minute I found out, like my son's, I was like, first I'm like, my God, my son, heroin, what happened to cocaine or something? I don't know, and so I think that's really powerful too.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that's so important, because a lot of people, just like addicts, sometimes are struggling by themselves. There's a lot of support groups who are just ashamed or embarrassed, and they don't talk about it. There's a stigma, like, I don't want the public to know. But little did I know, once I started getting connected, started getting informed, I started reaching out, I found out there's so many people in this position, like so many siblings, spouses, parents, children, who actually have a struggling parent who, it's amazing how many people are struggling. It's just, we have to remove the stigma of private, like we don't talk about it. It's something we just don't discuss in public. It's important to just be, sweep it under the rug, air it out. That's the only way you're going to find help and find a solution. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And also closing the door to it. I'm sorry, that is just showing that you're embarrassed of your addict. If you're not willing to say something, it's because it's feelings that you have. It's not them. It's nothing except for what's inside of you. And I think once you're educated and realize that doesn't matter, then that it helps a lot. Like you were saying, once I knew that there was options and there was people and there was things that I could do, it's life changing. It changes your life and your outlook and your relationship with your addict and things like that. So I think it's a scary step to take for some people, but it's definitely a necessary one.
Yeah.
But now look at us.
Yeah.
It's well worth it though.
We're getting, I mean, I'm not saying that like we're all conceited, but I mean, if we weren't doing these, and we do them a lot now, and a lot of people see them, I mean, I think that would be really unfortunate. I mean, a lot of people would miss out on, you know, our story and, you know, us as support people. And so I think that's really important too, that, you know, we get to help others, because like I said, my son's alive,
Yeah.
you know,
Uh-huh.
so, and we love it. You can probably tell by the way.
Yeah, a little bit.
We love doing these.
Yeah. Yeah, but we have a couple more questions before we wrap up, guys. Now, so, you know, when I first got into recovery, anybody in recovery, generally, they'll destroy like pretty much every relationship, and it's harder for a family member to start to trust them again. I learned that trust is a repeated reality. That's what you call trust. Now, what was it like for you guys with Tanner? Like, did you guys trust him instantly? Was there kind of boundaries you guys had, or how'd you guys go about that?
Well, I would say I had unconditional trust.
Mm-hmm.
When he said he was going to get clean, I believed him.
Okay, that's good.
I did. You know, he come home and lived with me, and we got through it, and I never distrusted him. I didn't even as a parent, did I ever? I mean, I even when my kids were, I just never was like that as a parent anyway, but I've always been in unconditional trust. And if, as the support people, if you look up unconditional trust versus conditional trust, when you're in conditional trust, your addict's probably not going to be that successful either. Mm-hmm. And I, off the top of my head, you know, it's like, when unconditional trust is, you know, you're going to trust them to do what they're going to say. You're not going to, you know, check up on him. I didn't check his phone. I didn't. Yeah. First of all, that would be so exhausting for me. I couldn't have said, like, oh God. But I would say we were in unconditional trust when he said we believed him, and he relapsed, and don't think we weren't pissed. Mm-hmm. We were pissed when he relapsed, but we understand relapse is part of recovery. Unfortunately, we just don't want to do it again. Yeah. Right. Oh, and I don't think, I just really have this feeling he won't. He's doing so great. He's so happy. Mm-hmm. Don't you? And I'll let you answer, because I don't think you were in low trust either.
No, and I think that's a hard concept, because mm-hmm. of course we want to, going back to, when we're going into recovery, I mean, even before, you need to separate the addict from the addiction.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I don't trust the addiction. I don't trust what heroin makes you do, but it's not that I don't trust you. I feel like once he was in rehab and he was in recovery, he had made these choices, that you kind of have to let go of the fear that something is just going to go wrong. Right. Because if we're just focusing on the negative and worrying about when the next bad thing is going to happen, we're just
part of the problem.
We're just enabling the bad behavior, because we're focusing on the negative. So if you can take away those two, you know, separate the addict from the addiction, you kind of do have to realize that while we're in recovery and while we're doing this, I do trust this person. I trust them that they made this decision to show up for themselves, to be here. They want to be better. They want to do better. They are looking for something different than heroin.
Right.
So not trusting them and having to check up on them all the time, it's not going to help the situation. You really do have to just allow them to do what they're going to do and just trust that it is going to be the best thing. And then obviously, if there's a relapse or things like that, then you can step away and say, okay, I don't trust what heroin is making you do.
Right.
But I think it's completely different from the human, the person that's behind the addiction, to realize, okay, I will put my trust in you, because I feel like you are making an effort to have a better life, to leave this behind, to work towards something better. So you deserve to have my support, my full support. You don't deserve to have me in your corner that's like, you might not do a good job. You might not be able to do this. You might be lying to me, which could be the case, but you kind of have to let go of that, because you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to move forward with that attitude. So I think it's hard. Trust is a hard thing. But after like rehab or whatever, I think until they give you reasons not to, new reasons, because we're moving past the past. We're not focusing on the past forever.
Right.
We're not reliving that. We're here now, and you are not using heroin. So we're going to move forward with this. I will trust you, and we will move forward, because if we're living in the past, then we're stuck there anyways. So
Right. Yeah. That is a fantastic answer. Like, it's no mystery to me whether or not Tanner has a great support group with his mother and his sister, you know. But last question. So we talked a little bit about it. You guys talked throughout this time. But what would you say to someone that says, you know, I can't stop enabling my son or my daughter?
you have to.
You have to, or they will die.
Yeah.
You have to. And this is a true story. So I did meet someone on social media, and she reached out, she DM'd me, and she said, can I talk to you? And I said, sure. And her son is, I think he was something anyway. And she said, I can't like let go of it. I can't, like, I love him so much. And then I said, well, you're going to love him to death.
Right.
I said, you have got to let him hit rock bottom, or you have got to not enable him. And that doesn't mean you don't, we still loved Tanner. We loved Tanner. We didn't love the heroin addict.
Right.
Right. And so you have to quit enabling, because they will die. And you can attest to this. You will die.
Oh yeah.
And we make it so comfortable. I mean, some lady in rehab literally said to us, oh yeah, I don't want to throw my daughter out, and I'm driving her to the drug addict's house, remember, and paying for her drugs because I love her. I mean, we were like going, you're kidding.
There is also other ways to love them. You can
Right.
love them through recovery. You can love them by going up to meetings, things
horrifying.
like that. Because enabling them, I think it is hard, because you have an unconditional love for them. It's okay that you love someone and you're requiring them to get better or get help before you're able to, you know, give them the normal relationship that you had.
Right.
Because they get comfortable. If they're comfy, why are we going to change with anything? If you're comfortable, it's like, I'm not going to take the step. I'm comfortable living at my mom's house and doing heroin and trying to hide it from them. I'm comfortable doing that.
Right.
I don't see any reason that I need to change.
Right.
So if they have no reason or there's no purpose in behind it, they're not going to work towards recovery. They're comfortable doing their drugs. Or you know, whatever. They're comfortable. So I think just enabling it, you're doing them a huge disservice.
Right.
Because then they're just stuck there. You're just living.
Yeah.
And it's not better for you. It's not good for you to live because you love them. Let them live with you and just care for them and take care of them while they're using heroin. Because while they're using, it's not a normal relationship anyways. So there's better options out there. So you can still love them and get help with them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you know, I think it can be scary for somebody like you guys in a way, because you know, we all hear that, you know, people got to hit their bottom, but the sad truth is that some people die before they hit their bottom. And I think that's what just is in the mind of the mother, the father, the brother, that they don't want them to die. So they think, I'm going to love them by taking them to the dope dealer's house, to the liquor store and things like that.
Right.
Yep.
And know, as the support people, that is a reality. Some people, I mean, we hear stories. I watch a lot of stuff on social media now that people have lived in their cars. I mean, it takes something pretty traumatic for some people to hit rock bottom, and some of them unfortunately overdose. I mean, it is part of addiction, and you just have to know that is a possibility. It's a horrible thought, and I get it. We never wanted to think that, but Tanner did overdose. What did he say? Several times. He did not die, but he did. I mean, the first time he got clean, his drug addicts friends threw him out at my mother-in-law's yard because he was dying of an overdose, and he crawled to her door. I mean, I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me, you know? I'm just like, and the next day we took him to rehab, but he did relapse a few more times after that, but it stayed this time. But everybody has to know that with addiction, relapse and death is so possible. It's frightening, but and you can attest to that.
Yes. Yeah, it's inevitable, you know.
Oh,
You know, like you said, you know, drugs and alcohol, they will love you to death, literally. But you know what, ladies? It's closing time now, but we thank you so much, man. We got to do this again. I love doing this. I love hearing this, you know, from a different perspective, because I'm around people in recovery all the time. You know, I don't hang around people who are not sober. And it's not because like you know, they're bad people or nothing. That's just how I live my life today. You know, I just got more common with them, and you know, we think alike and everything. So, but you want to say anything before we wrap up?
No, same thing. Thank you, ladies. I think this is so important just to get everybody's perspective regarding the support system. So we thank you so much for taking the time to just share your story with us. It's much appreciated.
thank you. We
Thank
love
you.
it.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Aloha.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, that wraps it up, man. That was so good. I'm gonna post this shortly after you know, we stop going live. But you know, Christy Nichole, they got such an amazing story. You know, a mother and a sister helping out their brother and their son who was struggling with heroin. I really hope that really resonated in the hearts of people who you know, have a loved one that's suffering from this illness, because addiction has been you know, diagnosed as a disease, you know, and they made so much good points, man, in this live show right now. But you know, if you or somebody you know that wants to come on with me, go live, share their story, how they recover to you know, one thing that I've learned, I forgot who I learned this from, but he said, look, you know what we should do? We should aspire to inspire before we expire. You know, this addiction gave me purpose. You know, what was meant for my harm, God took it and he turned it into good. So anyways, thank you guys again so much for watching. And I thank my beautiful co-host here. You know, it's so appropriate for her to be on the show because she supports me, you know, in my recovery. And she supports me, period. So thank you guys so much for watching. See you later.